an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 124 and 125. In these episodes, Pell takes one for the team. And honestly, it was pretty well done. I don't really know him too well. I'm just going to say I hope he's really dead. No offense. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Florian for commissioning this episode. What's up? Florian is here in the chat. It is Florian today, right? Yes. Okay, good. So I'm gonna do the thing where I just talk about what I want to talk about, which is Pell right away. Florian says, will we also talk about Django today? Florian, I don't know what to say about that. The thing that I always hesitate to talk too much about something that only happens in a channel because people won't have seen it. But Florian shared a one-page story kind of thing that gets put. Did you say it's like a cover of a manga, or is it just in the manga? But it's bits of stories about side characters. And he shared one about Django where he's doing a dance with a bunch of Marines as he's swabbing the deck, honestly, is what it looks like. I didn't remember that he joined the Marines, or maybe I'm not supposed to know that, or I'm not sure. I don't know what to say about it, Florian. I felt very confused by it, and that's pretty much my takeaway, was just well, that's certainly a thing. Apologies. But the thing I want to talk about with Pell, look, I said it in the intro. I hope he's really dead. Nothing against you, Pell. As we know, I just have an issue with really needing genuine consequences to things. And I am super hopeful that there wasn't some weird thing that he was able to do to get out of it at the last second so that he turns up and everything is... I want Pell to have made a real sacrifice. I want that to have been a genuine thing that happened. And I don't want to feel manipulated. That's honestly, probably at least 50% of it. I don't like feeling like a show is just trying to pull my heartstrings and then undo it all. But I was genuinely surprised. And the thing about this too is the radius, I think it's meant to be, diameter is the overall across of a circle, right? And the radius is from the center to one side. So the radius is meant to be 5 kilometers for this explosion. He must have flown really fucking high. That's all I'm saying. Ryan in the chat, I want Pell dead, Natasha 2022. I would run on that campaign. I would definitely run on a campaign based on wanting characters to actually be dead. I would be very comfortable with that. So, you know what? Yeah, put that down. But yeah, he must have flown a ways in order to get that away from everybody. And I will say, the show does make it feel like he has flown a ways. It's not like he flies and a second later it goes off. We see him ascending into the stratosphere. A bitch takes a while. And you hear the ticking of the bomb the whole time. It really does build things up in a way that I think was really well done and very satisfying, and truly it reminded me of that moment in which one is it? Not Rise of Skywalker, the one right before that, the good one, Last Jedi. And when we go totally silent for that ship going into speed of light. What is that? Hyperdrive? Hyperspace? I don't know. But basically, somebody hits the accelerator and drives a ship through another ship at the speed of light. And the whole scene is dead silent, which for some reason makes it feel like a lot more intense. And when this went to, I think, almost total silence, there was the ticking of the bomb, and that was it. But I really thought that was like, it just makes you stop and watch in a way, like the show. And I'm not saying this in any sort of negative sense, but you guys know what I mean. This show is noisy. This show is colorful. This show is full of music and sounds and chatter and people screaming. So when they choose to just pull back on all that, it really makes you stop and go, wait, what's happening? Like, it's just a whole different energy that occurs. And that is part of why I really hope that he's actually dead, because it felt so meaningful and emotional and really like serious. And I just don't know, I'm just really, this is kind of a test for me, I'll be honest, because Pell is such a side character that the show choosing to bring him back, they've already done it once where I thought he was dead, but it didn't matter so much because his sacrifice didn't feel like quite such a big deal. It felt like he was doing his best. It wasn't like the sacrifice didn't mean anything, but this is for the sake of like the entire city instead of like just Vivi. And bringing him back then, I was like a little bit salty about, but it didn't bother me as much as when they brought back fucking Cogsworth, who I think it was the same exact episode that happened. And so that sort of pushed me over the edge a little bit. But here, because he's such a side character, it would cost them nothing to keep him dead. Like there are some characters that are so important or so beloved that I kind of can understand wanting to bring them back and having difficulty resisting the urge to do that. And then there are characters like this where bringing them back, I would genuinely want to know why, because it feels like they're not important enough to really warrant this. And the character for whom it would be most important, Vivi, isn't like a main member of the club. And I honestly don't care about her enough to just bring him back for her sake. So this is a bit of a test. If they bring him back and it turns out he isn't dead, I'm going to have something to say about that. And so I want you all prepared for that. I'm going to try to not make it too much of a rant because I've already made my position and feelings on this very clear. And I don't need to completely go over that every time. But for me, this feels like it would really be completely fine, story-wise, in terms of who they have to work with remaining, if they just kept him dead. And if they can't even do that, it's going to be really disappointing. So, fingers crossed that Pell stays dead. Just saying. So I'm going to back up here and we are going to talk about this from the beginning. Luffy is heading down the stairs and is about to confront Crocodile. Now, guys, remind me, because I know that things are falling apart in this temple. Is that the word we want to use for this? I feel like, I know that this is something that was triggered by Vivi's father, Cobra. I can't get over that name, honestly, but it's fine. I don't remember exactly how he says he did this. Does he go into any detail on that at all? Because he sort of postures about how it's a what's the word I want? A fail-safe, I guess, is kind of the vibe that I was getting. But I can't remember exactly how he manages to pull this off. And it just felt like a weird move to have that I don't know, be the move that he's going to make here. I understand what he was trying to do. But yeah, considering what we find out about how Crocodile can get out of here. I mean, and Crocodile, I guess Cobra just assumed, I'm coming down here with, what was her name? Miss All Sunday. And I know that I'm only with her right now, but it's inevitable that Crocodile is going to come down here and join us at some point. So I'm going to do this in anticipation of him being here because I know eventually I'll be able to take him out. I think that's like kind of the assumption that he was working with. And that's fine. I mean, I feel like that's pretty logical. I'm not mad about that at all. But I am just curious about how he did this because, you know, what I keep imagining is him just having like a button, a self-destruct button in his pocket that he can press. And I don't remember if he mentioned specifically how he activates this to make it happen. We don't see him get the chance to do it or even have his hands free at any point as he heads down. So I'm just sort of unclear about how this is possible. And if it's possible, like, it doesn't look like there's a way to stop it now that it's started. And I don't expect that he would stop it. You know, he seems pretty committed. But it just sort of sets the backdrop for the fight with Luffy because the two of them are dodging all of these like falling pieces of debris, huge chunks of masonry, you know, it's like serious. Meanwhile, back in the city, our friends are putting up a smoke signal, Vivi and Usopp, to let everybody know that Vivi has figured out where the cannoneer is. And this is sort of weird for me. I'm going to need you guys to help me. She says the clock tower, which honestly, being the tallest place in the city as it looks, I feel like that should have been like one of the first guesses, but it's fine. The thing is that she sort of, when Usopp is asking her, why do you think it's up there? We go into like a flashback, and it's her and the Sand clan, right? And they are talking about like having their secret base up in this clock tower. And it's actually pretty roomy. And part of her thinking on this is they would have to bring the cannon at a place that's high enough up to be able to aim and big enough to be able to hold a cannon and a cannoneer. Like, it would take a significant amount of room. But I guess all it is supposed to be is that she knows how big the space is up there, and so trusts that there would be enough room for a cannon. What I was going to ask you guys for help with is that it felt a little bit like the connection between like the Sand clan and this felt like a little bit sudden to me. She makes this sort of like mental leap about, oh, right, when I was a kid, this is where we had our headquarters and it's there. Like, it almost felt like there was a relationship between where it was being put and the fact that she had, you know, hung out here a lot with her friends. I don't think there is, and I think that I just sort of interpreted it that way initially because I thought that that was her train of thought. And I think all it's supposed to be actually is that she looks up at the clock tower, remembers as a kid that there was a big room up there, and is like, oh shit, that would be perfect. And that's about it. I think that's really the only kind of mental connection that she's meant to be making here. But I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss something about it. And they begin to head towards the clock tower, and they get stopped by a bunch of Baroque works. And they cut away from the two of them as they're panicking, looking at all these Baroque works guys. And we get to see everybody rushing back to the smoke signal. Zoro is like way out there. He is like he's in greenery, like he's, I don't know where. And he's saying, why does it have to be so far away? And then we see Sanji and he's like, oh, good, it's close. And then we go to Nami riding on Chopper's back. And they are just like, all right, let's go. There's no mention about like how close or far away they are. Okay, thank you. Florian in the chat says, I get what you mean. I had that feeling also first time watching. I think you didn't miss anything. Okay, cool. Like I said, it doesn't need to be like related, but I kind of thought it was the way it was sort of presented. And now I think it's just was meant to be just her thinking of like the best possibilities. So Usopp, in order to get all of these Baroque works, guys, you all know how much Usopp's decisions intrigued me. What he does here, honestly, was genius. And it would never work in a million years, really. But in this universe, it absolutely is fine that it works. And I have to say, I kind of feel like it would work on me. He pulls out a giant chalkboard and just scratches his fingernails down it over and over again to get them all so flipped out that they have their ears covered and are like cowering on the ground and get distracted, and him and Vivi can just run past. Now, like I said, no, this would not work. But oh my God, what is it about that? I swear to God, there has to be like a scientific phenomenon behind the particular pitch of sound that is caused that causes actual physical harm to our eardrums or something. There has to be something behind, because there is nothing like it. There isn't. There is just nothing like it. Like, the closest comparison that I can make in terms of a sound that immediately makes me go, ugh, is silverware either scraping a certain way on a plate or silverware like going into styrofoam, that kind of sound, like the squeaking of styrofoam. That's like uncomfortable. But a chalkboard, I don't get why, but it's like you just want to die. I hate it. Just thinking about it makes my fucking teeth hurt. And that's a thing too. People often will say a sound makes their teeth hurt. There's got to be like a reason for that. Something. I don't know. But anyway, it does work and they run past. And then we cut back to Luffy. So Luffy is doing something interesting here. He fights with Crocodile and manages to actually punch him because he is bleeding. And his blood functions as water. Now, this is fine, but I do have to say, and honestly, like, I have this sort of complaint about a few different bits in different fictions. Like, I have said this about Harry Potter being protected by this, like, love of his mother. Has no child ever has no parent ever sacrificed themselves for the safety of their child. Like, him having this very unique kind of protection feels like this would probably be more common than you'd think. With Luffy, it's just, I have to assume that Crocodile has fought people who are bleeding many times. Is it just that he was just a better fighter? So, because it's sort of like the vibe that you get when he realizes what Luffy is doing is like, oh, that's clever. I didn't think of that. And maybe I'm interpreting that wrong. And it's really just supposed to be like, oh, that's clever. Most people don't figure that out. And also, is Crocodile's own blood, does it have that effect? I'm going to assume no, right? Because his blood can turn into sand. If he can turn his whole body into sand, it stands to reason that his blood can do the same thing. So it's not the same, right, as like regular blood. Okay, I accept that. I talked myself into it. But yeah, just the idea of like this being something that he's never run across, I would just assume, I mean, to be honest, though, I'm talking about this and saying like he would have had to come across people who fought with like wild bloody, but it does seem like Crocodile tends to fight people from afar. He tends to like come at them with his like sandstorm shit, and very rarely actually does hand to hand. So maybe it just doesn't come up that much because he doesn't fight that way because he knows better. That's fine. Oh, and I should mention, too, Miss All Sunday is still alive. She looks up at one point, and it's just like, oh, it's the Straw Hat. And I was just like, God damn it. Don't get me wrong, though. With her, I do enjoy her enough that if we keep her alive, all right, that's fine. I just think she's kind of interesting because she's clearly got a she's got a weird moral compass, and she was doing things for her own reasons. So keeping her around so that I can find out what was actually motivating her, I'm interested. I would like to know. And I really enjoy Crocodile just being like, dude, I cannot believe you're still alive. What the fuck? And guys, in the midst of this fight, we find out, I don't know why, you know why? I shouldn't blame myself. I am tempted always to be like, what the fuck? How did I not think of this? But I know why I didn't. Because there's a million things going on in this show, and I can't keep track of everything. It is not my fault. So, there are two things that I'm like, how did I not think of this? One, we have never fucking seen Crocodile use his hook beyond like spearing Luffy in the chest. I should have fucking known that hook did more than just fucking hook things. Nothing in this universe only does the thing it looks like it does. That just like, you know, I'm talking about weapons, you know, specifically. Shit always has some weird extra button, form, whatever. It just never occurred to me. So it turns out that he can infuse this hook with poison. There's like these little holes that open and start to spill like poison gas out. Second thing, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to talk about it, that I didn't think of, is that we had never met Mr. Is it Mr. 8 or Mr. 7? It's Mr. 8, right? 7 was Cogsworth? Or was that 6? I'm trying to remember. But again, like, I can't keep track of who was in what spots. So the fact that I didn't think about this number is not surprising, really, because how would I would have had to like sit down and write down everybody's names individually to realize that there was somebody missing to begin with. So yeah, okay, Mr. 7, thank you, Florian. Mr. 7 is accompanied by Miss Father's Day. I should have mentioned, and I don't remember, maybe I have, when Vivi was, you know, undercover with Baroque Works, she is Miss Wednesday. Is that a holiday? Because I know that they're all allegedly named after holidays, but Wednesday just is a day of the week. Like, is that anything? But yeah, Miss Father's Day. What a weird thing. Like, just the way my mind works. You have women named after certain days of the week. Then you have their, like, abilities or whatever named, like, in theme with whatever the holiday is, you know, obviously. And it's just so hard for me to keep track when there is no rhyme or reason in that direction. The day of the holiday is, like, completely arbitrary. I wonder if they get to pick them themselves. I wonder what holiday I would pick. Like Miss Halloween, it's pretty good. I mean, come on. That's a good one. Florian says, yeah, Wednesday. Nope, she's just a day of the week. Huh. So either she got, like, completely ripped off and didn't get a good name. She picked her own name and just did a bad job. Or she... like, that's supposed to be a little clue to us that she's undercover because her name doesn't go with everybody else's. But I don't think it's that, because we don't find out about this, like, naming convention until after we find out that Vivi isn't really with Baroque Works anyway. These two, y'all, okay, you know what? I have to go, and I might try and screen share here. We get this moment with Pell flying over the city, and he gets shot down, and it's like the muzzle of this gun just pokes out of a doorway in such a way that you can't see who's holding it. And he gets shot, goes down, and somebody is giggling to themselves about how they were able to shoot him with their ribbit gun. And I, for a moment, was like, wait, is somebody alive still out there that I forgot about? And then when I stopped to think about the type of weapon and the voice, I was like, oh, wait, is this somebody new? What the fuck? Yes, listener, it is somebody new. Two somebodies new. Because like I said, I was not keeping track closely enough. Now, the design of these guys, let's talk about it. Because truly, I keep thinking it can't get any weirder. And then we keep meeting new people. So, Mr. Seven is giving Amadeus. I don't know if that's just me, but it's a combo of factors. He has this like white curly wig. He is wearing a very sort of like 17th century dress. Or maybe 16th century. I don't know the centuries, guys, but you know what I'm saying. He's wearing like the sort of pantaloons that you wear hose under and one of those like long flared Captain Hook type jackets. He has a cravat sort of thing going on, and his clothes are very like roughly and sort of gilded, you know? And he has the laugh, which that's like Amadeus's whole thing, is this weird, almost feminine, high-pitched, giggly laugh that's really like weird and creepy. Can I tell you guys something? And I don't really like, this isn't something that continuously bothers me, but I think about it sometimes. Do you remember how in Harry Potter, every time Harry hears Voldemort's voice, it's described as like surprisingly high-pitched, and his laugh is also? I really kind of wish they had like kept to that for the movies, because I feel like a higher pitched voiced Voldemort might have been pretty interesting. I don't know. I just like, I find it funny. It's just so not the way we do villains. They have to have these deep voices unless it's somebody who's like small or like really crazy in a way that honestly I'm realizing is sort of tied to femininity in an insulting way now that I think about it. The only time that I've really seen this done was the person had an alternative voice. They both went high pitched and pretty low. And that was Moriarty in the BBC Sherlock. And he is just so good. But the high pitched voice and the high pitched laugh on this guy, I just cannot. It is chaotic. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. It injects this sort of weirdness into everything when he's laughing at shit that doesn't, like, really make sense. It's like the guy in The Simpsons, the doctor, who laughs at really, like, shit that shouldn't be laughed at. He'll give somebody a really bad prognosis and then, like, giggle after saying it. I don't know. There's just an energy to this dude that I'm just like, I do not like you. And then we have the woman. This Father's Day is wearing, it's not even, you know what? I want to start with what she's wearing, but I can't do that because first we have to talk about how she's standing. She is bow-legged. I don't know what to do with that. And like, bow-legged isn't probably really fair because bow-legged really is that's supposed to happen when you are standing straight and your legs like bow out around the knee joint area. And that is something that slowly happens with time. She is more like she's standing in a plie position with her knees bent in this really bizarre stance that I don't know is it supposed to be frog-like maybe? Maybe that's what they're going for. I didn't really think of that. But I suppose, okay. So she's wearing this, headdress. There is a frog's body, mouth sort of thing going on. Like it's the sort of headdress that looks like the frog's mouth is open, but then her head makes up the rest of its entire body. And it's like eyes are above her eyes. And then coming off each side of it are what almost look like the bones of bat wings. I think it's supposed to be more like the webbing of frog feet or something. But it really gives batwing for me because of the way that they hang. And there's 3 branches on each side, and they each have this ball at the end that looks like a ball of yarn. There's like a sort of, quality to them that it looks like there's things wrapped up. Then she's got this like puff-sleeved belly shirt with lace frills. And then what I think is a pair of shorts with an overlay. It may be a skirt. I'm going to see if there's like a better view of it. But she is wearing this like overskirt sort of thing that hangs down, and it's sort of echoing the weird things coming off of her head in a way. And there are pom-poms on the ends of this as well. And the thing is, if you're going for a frog look, are the balls supposed to be like frog eggs? Is that kind of what, because honestly, frog is a weird animal to choose for this. Like the swan thing is also super weird, but because there's also the ballet aspect, it sort of works, it's I don't know. The frog thing, I'm not entirely sure what you do with that. If you were to tell me that like somebody needed a frog themed costume, I think what I would focus on would be making sure that like they had webbed feet or something that they could swim in such a way, and that they had like one of those tongues, right? That like shoots out and grabs a fly. That does not seem to be anything that we are concerned about with these two. And I just feel like the design of this does not follow any kind of logic. And so often they don't, and I have gotten used to that to a degree. But I do like to ask the question because I feel like sometimes, especially because of the difference in cultures from us versus Japanese culture, that maybe there is something about frogs that they focus on more in Japanese culture that I'm sort of like, as an American, nobody pays as much attention to. And maybe that's kind of what I'm missing on that. But yeah, anyway, that whole introduction, y'all, not ready. Like, these things hanging off of, and it is a skirt, I'm pretty sure. These things hanging off of her skirt are they have to be like, what? I'm going to say grenades? I don't know. Like, do they have to be something that's frog themed in attack as well? Or is it just a frog look? Because I guess this show sort of goes back and forth with that as well. Like, they will occasionally have stuff where the attack is on theme, and then sometimes they will have stuff where, no, it's just like a fucking machine gun. Like she has the ribbit gun, and that shit just functions like a fucking gun, basically. It just looks weird. It looks like that kind of toy gun that like blows bubbles out of it. And she also, that never occurred to me. Kyle is in the chat saying, I think they're meant to look like frog toes, which are super spherical like that. Oh, that did not, you know why that didn't occur to me? Because they're white. While like it'll be green right up until the balls on the ends, which are white. If the balls were also green, I think I may have put that together a little sooner. But because they're white, and that's not usually how that goes, I think that just didn't occur to me. But all right, I will accept that. It doesn't, My instinct is to say, okay, that makes sense. It does not make sense. It's fine. It doesn't have to make sense. Whatever. Who cares? So yeah. And also she's got like these knee boots as well that have like the pom-poms going around the outside. So I'm just going to assume every single thing that looks like a pom-pom is a weapon. Because it just feels like that's how a lot of this stuff fucking goes. We'll see, you know, really we only see her use her gun, I feel like, in this section. And she says ribbit, ribbit in the midst of all of her sentences. I, again, am absolutely dying to talk to the voice actors who do these characters. How weird is it to be delivering these lines and having to insert ribbit, ribbit every 2 seconds? Like, this just feels so strange. So these two, as it turns out, are assigned to the canon. And what we find out later, and honestly, Bernadette, I believe, is the one who said that the reasoning behind having a crush on Crocodile is his competence. And oh my God, I just got a close-up of her Miss Father's Day's costume, and for some reason I missed that she's wearing like a collared shirt with a tie underneath the puff sleeve. What is even happening? And she's got like almost a belt. I hesitate to use that word, but it's the best I can come up with. That sort of like sits over, even almost like there's a frog swallowing her skirt, because it's another like head and mouth sort of vibe. Wow. There's a lot happening with this costume. Even her widow's peak matches up with the like arch of the lips of the frog so that there's like a heart on her forehead. Wow. There's a lot. Okay. I'm sorry. But yeah, so the competence thing, it turns out I can't help but understand what you're talking about, Bernadette. It turns out that what Crocodile has done is he has assigned cannoneers because he has a target in mind that he wants to hit with this bomb. However, he also created a timer for the bomb so that it will go off anyway, even if the cannoneer gets fucked with. It will not cause the same kind of damage. However, it will still fuck some shit up. It won't be as like precise as he wanted, but taking out the cannoneers is not going to stop the bomb. That's pretty smart. You know what? Respect. I can't even be mad. Like, the only thing that I don't really understand is, and I'm assuming that it's just meant to like go out in place, but is the cannon supposed to go off and shoot it at random? Or is it just that the bomb inside the cannon's mouth explodes from within the cannon and it just does whatever damage it can from the top of the clock tower? I'm assuming that one because, like I said, this thing has a serious radius, so it's not like it won't be a fucking problem, even though it's way up there. But I just wasn't entirely sure if I was like, you know, getting that right, because it looks like it's just the bomb itself on the sphere that has the timer. So I'm assuming that the cannon, after the cannoneers are taken out, the cannon doesn't really have anything to do with it. Excuse me. So I am impressed by that, and it really, like, this keeps being a thing where they figure out some way to like deal with something that Crocodile has done. And it turns out that he has already like thought ahead and figured out that somebody might do this and taken care of that eventuality. And this really causes Vivi to have like a low-key breakdown. She basically just starts screaming about how Crocodile isn't satisfied just ruining everybody's lives and killing people. He also has to fucking toy with us and humiliate us in the process. And she's not wrong. You know, it's the thing is, I cannot tell. she's not wrong in terms of the way she's interpreting this, because of course she's interpreting it this way. I'm not mad about that. But what I will say is I'm not entirely sure the goal is just to humiliate them. At least with this, I think it was when he gave them the fake key to get out of their cage, and it turned out it wasn't actually the key. That was to keep them busy and make them feel like fools. But with this, it's like, it feels much more like, no, I just have a backup plan. And I don't know, maybe it's because he told them all about the plan and the fact that there was a bomb that was going to go off, and she feels like they were very specifically baited into going to find it. Yeah, I guess I can see that. So probably it is just a little bit of like malicious amusement. All right, that's fair. I agree with you, Vivi, I think. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed her. Look, I know that I have said that the voice actress who does Vivi has just had to like scream cry for the last 10 episodes. And I fucking stand by that. That has been all she can do. And I do feel for her, because I'm sure this shit has gotten tiresome. But this was one of the first moments where I really felt like this is earned, you know, after everything they went through to try and track this shit down. And then she has like a brainwave and really feels like she's figured something out and is really kind of proud of herself. And then it just turns out to kind of be pointless. Yeah, that's tough. I feel for you, Vivi. So this is when Pell comes in, and there's like a flashback. It's so weird. The flashback that we get is of Pell slapping Vivi across the face. It just, I don't know. This shit hits different in the year 2022. It's not the kind of flex he thinks it is. But it's supposed to be a moment of us understanding just how important Vivi is to him and how much he values her and is worried about her well-being. And then we eventually see him like giving her a ride on his back when he's not really supposed to do that. So, you know, demonstrates that he has some like personal affection for her. But yeah, the having it be like the moment where he slaps her, I was kind of like, this is just a weird choice. I don't know. This is not what I would pick. But it just gives us a moment of looking at the relationship that they had. And he comes to her and tells her that he is very proud to be able to sacrifice, and flies up to this clock tower. Now, I'm going to backtrack in a minute, but let me finish the thing with Pell. I know that there's a lot to do with this clock tower before we get to him, but I have to. So he flies up there and takes the bomb. And this is when it goes silent, once you realize like what's happening and we hear the ticking. And he flies and flies. And like I said, they really let it be like quite a while. And while that often just feels like the show stalling because they're trying to stretch the length of the episode out, here it felt like it was meaningful. And it might just be accidentally, and they were just trying to, you know, draw things out. But it worked, so it's fine. And eventually he is like above the stratus, like you see the clouds below him. And that shit goes off and it looks like a nuke. Like it's genuinely huge, blinding. It is a very different type of explosion than what we have seen in this show before. And I just cannot see any way that I will believe that he has survived that. I just don't see it. They may decide to do it anyway, because this show does not care about rules. But for me, that just vaporized him. Like he is actual powder right now. And it's a pretty intense moment, you know, like I don't think that that is something that ever occurred to Crocodile. I could be wrong. Maybe Pell was like his greatest threat and he knew exactly what Pell would do specifically. And he went and baited Pell, like God knows, because Crocodile seems to really think ahead. But I don't think so. I think this is going to be like, God damn it. You know, he's going to be real irritated by it. That is to say, if he winds up figuring out that this happened, because he is still in the midst of his fight with Luffy. So when I say I want to backtrack and talk about the rest of the clock tower thing, there is this amazing sequence, you guys. All of our people are running back, and they wind up, there's a moment where Zoro comes across a bunch of Marines, and he thinks that he's going to have to fight them, and is complaining like how he doesn't have time for this. And the Marines are like, what the hell are you doing? And he thinks that this is because they're like going to start a fight. And instead they're like, do you have no sense of direction at all? What the fuck are you doing all the way out here? It's over there. They went northwest, you idiot. Go. And it's so funny. So he starts to head that way. We go back to the ground, and we've got, all of a sudden, like, Vivi and Usopp are looking around like, where is everybody? And Nami and Chopper have met up with them. But other than them, we haven't seen, you know, the rest of our people. And then all of a sudden Sanji is like halfway up the clock tower, and he's like waving like, hey guys, what are you doing down there? And then we have Zoro, even higher than him, going, hey guys, I must have gotten turned around. I don't know. I'm up here now. My bad. And so Nami decides to do something here. Nami uses her boomerang. I'm still not entirely sure that I get how this works, but she piles Usopp on and puts Chopper on top of Usopp, and then uses the boomerang, which, like, it seems they're suggesting it hits Usopp in the nuts. R.I.P. Usopp. Sorry about that, bud. And then this thing begins to spin like a fucking propeller. And it's clearly meant to be like a temporary thing. It's not just going to keep going. But it lifts them into the air. And what we're supposed to have happen is that first Sanji will come out and he will kick Chopper further into the air. Usopp will go back down. Usopp, who is currently so covered in bandages that he looks like a fucking mummy, is going to hit the ground from 3 or 4 stories up. Truly, Nami, you are very cruel. And then Chopper will get kicked up and land on Zoro's blades. I think it's, or do they go together? I'm trying to find the spot here. And the whole way that this works, with everybody rushing and then all of them realizing that they are in different places, and the way that the music sort of stops and starts doing that goofy like tuba thing, there's almost a like wah, wah, wah sense to it, even though that's not the actual sound effect. It really caught me off guard, and I found myself laughing. Like, that was really funny. So yeah, they get flung up. No, Usopp's down. Okay. And I love too when Chopper goes up and Zoro has his like swords out, and Chopper's like, they're sharp, and he's like, I'm using the flat of the blades. Get a hold of yourself. So then he starts to fling them upward. And there's this weird moment where Zoro tells Chopper, be careful, there are some weirdos up there. And Nami says, yeah, I know them. And then all of a sudden, the 2 Baroques up top go, and look down. And Vivi says, oops. Which is sort of like a weird thing, because it seems to suggest that her saying, yes, I know them, causes them to look down. And I don't see why they would have even heard her, because she, you know, but even, let's say they did. Then when the camera goes to their POV and they are looking down, it's literally just a cloud of dust They can't see anybody down there, but they can see Zoro falling with Chopper on his blades. And it's weird because everybody gets really anxious about this. Whereas if I were a villain and I looked down and I saw a couple of people that were my known enemies falling from that high up, I would be like, cool, they're taken care of. It would not occur to me to be concerned that this was going to turn into a problem for me. You know what I mean? They all sort of, like Vivi says they noticed, or no, that's Nami. Nami says they noticed after Vivi says, oops. And I was like, even if they did notice, so what? These two land, and it's like they just fell out of the tower after attempting to get up there or something. It doesn't seem like it should be an issue. But I guess it's like, because we're in a world of people with like superpowers, maybe the reaction that folks would have to seeing that isn't the same. And it does seem like it puts these two on their alert a little bit more, that anybody was trying to get up there at all, I suppose. But it's just a really weird moment where like Zoro is like, we're in the air. This isn't good. They could shoot at us. And all I could think was like, how about it's not good that you're in the air because you're in the air and like falling. Everybody's just apparently just going to survive this fall. Oh my God. Guys, I just saw Miss Father's Day fucking shoes. The angle that I was at before, it only looked like boots, green boots. And now I've got a close-up and she has full-on frogs. Like, they look like if you get those like animal-styled slippers. Imagine those, except they go like all the way up your shin and it's frogs. And that's what these look like. I cannot believe I missed that. Oh, wow. And Mr. Seven has got these weird, like, his shoes curl up at the toes, but in a square shape instead of like a curl. And it is weird looking. I will say that. I kind of wonder if that isn't going to wind up being like a secret weapon of his somehow. We have barely scratched the surface on what these two can do with their weird abilities. And I'm very much excited to see what they can pull out with this stuff. Florian says the outfit that keeps giving. Truly, like, and that's how it is with all these fucking costumes. They do keep giving the more you look at them. But I really feel like this one might be the weirdest one. You know, and I have no doubt that will be shattered soon. And somebody else, like in 2 episodes, will be the weirdest one. But so far, I feel like I can call Miss Father's Day the weirdest costume. Like, that headdress, I think, is really what does it. I think that takes it over the edge. Anyway, my God. So, yeah. And, like, she does, by the way, they both point their guns and begin shooting as he's falling. And Zoro, like, manages to redirect the bullets, but they are not meant to just hit. They are meant to, like, hit and explode. He throws Chopper up into the air the way he had intended with the blades. And, oh my God, how did I forget that Chopper has Vivi on him? Right. And Chopper, like, pushes Vivi off at this point. It's a weird, this sequence is weird. It's like she's up in the air, but it looked like he pushed her off. But I was like, wasn't she on the ground yelling about this a second ago? I don't really understand the sequence of events here, actually, now that I'm looking. And like Chopper is pretty high up. And I thought he might make it. And then he like looks over his shoulder and turns small again and just begins to like hit the ground. And all of a sudden we see Vivi and she is hovering in the air with her like peacock attack. Did she jump off of Chopper? Is she like hovers for a second like a hummingbird. Like, is it supposed to be that her weapons do that for her? There's a lot of like almost flight in this sequence that I kind of side-eye a little bit. But regardless, this is how she like takes them down and really thinks that she solved the problem. And then we find out about like what all the bomb can actually do. And she sees the bomb with the clock in it and realizes what's going on. And then we go back to the fight between Luffy and Crocodile, where he's like, oh yeah, that's like, there's a whole other thing that I've planned in case shit does not go right. So the fight with Luffy and Crocodile, I feel like ends on sort of a weird note, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to see, because this episode ends right after the explosion. And the spot where Luffy and Crocodile's fight gets cut away from, Crocodile has managed to like hit Luffy with the hook and get some poison into one of his wounds. And then they have like a back and forth about why Luffy is willing to like put it all on the line for Vivi in a way that he feels Crocodile just can't understand, which he clearly can't. And it's just another one of those moments of like, yeah, bad guy doesn't understand friendship. And he even like, Luffy says something about how she doesn't want anybody to die. And Crocodile says, that's why I'm telling you, you can just ditch that burden, which I just found so funny. He's just like, yeah, I know she doesn't want anybody to die. Isn't it ridiculous? We talked about this already, which they did. And honestly, the two of them agreeing about her not wanting people to be hurt being ridiculous still is very funny to me. And Cobra's watching this the whole time, by the way, just continually going, who is this kid? Which does get a little old after a while. Like, we get it, Cobra. You're very impressed with Luffy. Hooray. Florian says, want to talk about Tashigi for a moment. I forgot about that. There's a bunch of, like, Baroque works guys Tashigi runs into, like, with her Marines. And these Baroque works dudes do a whole, like, Baroque works? I don't even know what that is. I don't believe it's real. LOL. And they're wearing, like, jackets that say I Heart Baroque Works on the back. It's honestly a pretty good joke. And these Marines hesitate for a second. And then she's like, what the fuck, guys? You should be able to tell that they're enemies immediately and no hesitation, and attacks. It's a real sudden attack too. This guy is looking so smug and smiling to himself. And then all of a sudden there's just this shwink, and she's standing there with blood on her, and the two guys are like flying in either direction. And she starts yelling at her men, if you wait until you have proof, you can't prevent anything. Spoken like a true cop. That's all I'm saying. Look, Tashigi, I just don't think I'm going to come around on you. I really liked you. But honestly, this little bit where you're just like, don't wait for proof, just kill people. You should immediately know who the bad guys are. That does not hit the same way today. It just don't. It's shady AF. And no, they should not immediately know who the enemies are. Like, okay, yes, these guys literally had Baroque Works labels on their back. Granted. But to just say in general that people should always know, gonna have to disagree with you there, girl. People can definitely disguise themselves. Like, expecting that is just a weird thing to expect of anybody. But what can you do? That is the way that she is built, because that's part of being a fucking cop, I guess. But it is a pretty amusing moment to see these dudes really think that they like have these Marines fooled, or at least have like blockaded them somehow, and then they get taken out right away. I should mention, we still have not seen Smoker. I don't know where this guy is. We have Tashigi out here running around doing shit. No idea what that dude is up to at all. So, very curious about that. Like, I feel like he's going to have to wind up being key somehow. But I don't really get, like... I don't even remember, because he was with them in the, like, prison, and he does wind up in this town with them, right? And is part... Does he, like... I'm trying to see if... Did we see him here? Or is the last time we saw him at Crocodile's, like, weird aquatic headquarter thing? I don't even remember when the last time was that we saw him. Because I've been sort of assuming that he managed to get to Alubarna, and I'm not positive that's even true. I don't remember seeing that he got here. So maybe I'm just mistaken on that. But yeah, like he's clearly like doing something. I don't feel like we introduce him and then we don't see him and he's just like fucking chilling somewhere having a margarita. So anyway, all right. So that is pretty much where these end. And we don't get to see like the rest of the fight with Luffy. I was actually kind of surprised at the end of this episode. I double checked to see if there, you know, in the sheet, Florian gave me this really nice like table of what episodes are on what days and how many to watch and who's going to like co-host if it's a wannabe and all this stuff. And who, you know, I really appreciate that, Florian. And I checked it after finishing this episode because I was so sure you guys were going to want me to cover 3. And no, it was just these 2. And I was really surprised. I was like, I have to stop here, but nothing is resolved. So yeah, that's where I had to end it. Florian says last time was Croc's HQ. Haven't seen him since then. Huh. Okay. I wonder where he's at then. Like how does he get to Alubarna? Everybody else had like a means of transportation. I don't know what he's got. He can turn into smoke, right? So can he just smoke himself over there like fast? I don't know how that works. All right. So I'm going to wrap, but thank you guys again very much for hanging out with me. Thank you, Florian, for commissioning this. And I will be seeing you all again pretty soon for a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.